Hello, my name is Brenda Lozano. I'm a graduate student at George Washington University in the College of Professional Studies Master Program of Homeland Security. The following presentation is the final assignment for PSSL Emergency Management in Crisis Communication class. I'm going to talk about dual emergency management conflicts, such as the Apollo 1 and Space Shuttle Challenger. According to the Space Center in Houston website, they opened its doors in 1992. It has welcomed more than 18 million visitors and currently has nearly 1 million visitors annually, providing 925 jobs and 36 million in personal income are attributed to its presence. Part of the attractions are the Astronaut Experience exhibit, the historic Boeing 747 shuttle carrier aircraft replica, lunch and meeting with an astronaut, NASA tour, watch history in the making as you witness engineers and astronauts shape the future of space exploration, Saturn B at Rocker Park, old and new mission control, International Space Station, presentation on living in space, as well as many exhibitions of a space shuttle that went onto the moon. For that and many more things, we are proud to say that we love to have NASA in Houston. However, before we talk about the case comparison between Apollo 1 and the Space Shuttle Challenger, let's talk about what is emergency management plan and crisis communication. Emergencies can occur at any time, and they are normally coming unannounced. The difference is the final decision that the leader of the mission takes before many people lost their lives. As we learned during class, emergency management is a process used to anticipate, respond to, and mitigate a crisis in order to protect critical assets of an organization. The three key parts of an emergency management plan are leadership, strategic platform, and communication plan. On the other hand, the purpose of a crisis communication plan is to effectively manage communications through a formal, clearly defined channel in order to mitigate crisis or serious negative reputation to the organization. In the following case comparison between Apollo 1 and the Space Shuttle Challenger, I will analyze how the NASA breached the emergency management plan and how they handled the crisis communication of each incident. Let's talk about emergency management plan. On January 27, 1967, NASA lost three astronauts after Apollo 1 caught on fire. Although the NASA stated that they have a contingency plan for any emergency, they failed to provide the appropriate security when they already knew that something was wrong, even before the launch. Apollo 1 was one of the first missions of the NASA to conquer the moon. During the investigation, the NASA concluded that the malfunction of the door made it impossible for the astronauts to get out on time during the emergency. However, on January 28, 1986, 19 years after the tragedy of Apollo 1, the Space Shuttle Challenger lost seven members in 73 seconds after being launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The cause of the accident was the adverse effects of cold temperatures on the rover or rings. Engineers told NASA about the problem and possible consequences. However, NASA ignored the engineers' concern and decided to launch the Space Shuttle Challenger as previously scheduled. According to the Unit 2, Lesson 1, the 8 principles of an emergency management plan include comprehensive, which means the emergency managers consider and take into account all hazards, all phases, all stakeholders, and all impacts relevant to disasters. Progressive, emergency managers anticipate future disasters and take protective, preventive, and preparatory measures to build disaster resistant and disaster resilient communities. Risk driven. Emergency managers use sound risk management principles in assigning priorities and resources. Integrate. Emergency managers ensure unity of effort among all levels of government and all levels of a community. Collaborative. Emergency managers create and sustain broad and sincere relationships among individuals and organizations to encourage trust and facilitate communication. Coordinate. Emergency managers synchronize the activities of all relevant stakeholders to achieve a common purpose. Flexible. Emergency managers use creative and innovative approaches in solving disaster challenges. And professional. Emergency managers value a science and knowledge based approach based on education, training, experience, and so on. For that part, I can say that NASA failed to manage the disasters between first Apollo 1 and then later, 19 years later, on the Space Shuttle Challenger. Since on the Space Shuttle Challengers, they knew that based on what the engineers told them, that it was a problem previously to the launch. And even like that, NASA continued with the schedule of the launch, killing 7 astronauts. It seems that NASA didn't care about the emergency plan, emergency management plan, crisis communication, nothing. They didn't care about nothing, and they just decided to go back to schedule because they have stakeholders that they have to respond to, and I guess they don't want to be in trouble by telling them we have a problem, we cannot launch the space challenger. On the Apollo, on the other hand, um, they must to properly check everything and make sure that everything is functional. And as simple as a door handle that didn't work as an emergency situations, that was something that they should better put better attention before something like that, can happen again. Talking about crisis communication can take several ways, such as media, newspapers, television, and radio. Prepare a communication plan is important to take care of the emergency situation. Prepare employees and the public on what to do in case of an emergency can mitigate the crisis and prevent a major tragedy. The tragedy of Apollo 1 left behind many inconclusive questions between the media and the public. Basically, the NASA failed to comply with the emergency management plan that could save the astronauts. Also, the media speculate many rumors that surrounded the investigation as the public and the astronauts' families were looking for answers. The Challenger may have exploded because of a publicity stunt. Basically, the NASA failed to comply with the emergency management plan, but instead they followed the directives of launching the Space Shuttle Challenger as was scheduled. Since they already delayed the shuttle 5 times from the original date of January 22nd, 1986. According to Lawrence Barton in 2007, a good communication plan should ideally address the following 6 elements: promise action, including investigating, cooperating with agencies, laundering PCPs, communicating to key customers, and so on. Reinforce core values. Reiterate your company's core missions and values. Take control, impress in other briefings. A universal standard for a company to provide an initial briefing before local police agencies and first responders present their reports to the press. Correct inaccuracies. Counter rumors and speculations with facts. Poor information is often the result of a gap in quality data. Defeat difficult questions. Address difficult questions in a manner that demonstrates poise and reflects sympathy. Bad news delivered at once. Strive to release as much bad news as possible at one time, instead of releasing a stream of bad news over an extended period of time. With the Apollo 1, the NASA took 2 hours to inform the families of the astronauts who lost their lives that they died at the Apollo 1. And there were a lot of inconsistencies during the investigation. That is why the media took whatever rumor they hear and whatever they kind of find out about the investigation, and they put it in newspapers, television, everywhere, and the public was mistakenly taking information from the media from everywhere. That was one of the crisis communication in that aspect. The other one at the Space Shuttle Challenger was that they is believing that they basically they didn't want to wait, and they didn't want to get like people mad because they were putting on television and everywhere, that they weren't gonna launch this Space Shuttle Challenger. And even when they knew and the engineers told them there was something wrong, they still want to do it. After many years of failures, NASA reputations decay among the public views, and the media was not interested in their space missions to explore other planets. Although the speculations about the catastrophic incident of the Space Shuttle Challenger, I point that it was part of the publicity to gain media and public attention as previous years. Unfortunately, the attention that they got after the Space Shuttle Challenger incident was negative. The NASA has now been able to recuperate the reputation, to master the highest standards, to demonstrate their capabilities as a well-known organization. And now the NASA that is stated in Houston is working very hard to have more people motivated to be interested in their space missions. and everything else that they do. Uh, Hope to hear you comments and any other questions or concerns that you have. Thank you so much.